Manila's Ninoy Aquino International Airport isn't just an aging travel hub, it's an infrastructural failure with national consequences. For years, the airport has ranked among the world's worst major airports, a symbol of congestion and inefficiency that frustrates millions of travelers. But beyond inconvenience lies a deeper issue. Ninoy Aquino Airport is choking the Philippines' growth. In 2024, the country received only 5.4 million international visitors compared to Thailand's 35.5 million, a staggering gap exacerbated by an airport that can't keep up. This isn't just an old airport, it's an economic bottleneck holding back an entire nation. One stark example: a New Year's Day power failure at the airport in 2023 grounded all flights and stranded 65,000 passengers in a single day. This is the story of how a badly designed airport spiraled into a national liability, and why this isn't merely a local inconvenience, it's a national issue. Welcome to the tale of Ninoy Aquino International Airport's failure, a case study in how poor design choices can cascade into national challenges. In this analysis, we will uncover how Manila Airport became such a mess and why it matters. From its flawed layout and constrained location to the ripple effects on the economy, we'll break down the causes and consequences of Manila Airport's decline. Finally, we'll see what the Philippines plans to do about it. By the end, it will be clear how an airport can become a cautionary tale for a country's ambitions. Ninoy Aquino International Airport serves as the main international gateway to the Philippines, handling virtually all major air traffic into Metro Manila. Opened in the mid-20th century and later renamed after Senator Ninoy Aquino, it has expanded into 4 terminals over the decades, but this expansion was not enough to keep pace with demand. Today, Ninoy Aquino International Airport is the country's busiest airport, processing over 50 million passengers in 2024, despite an official capacity of around 35 million. Its 2 runways, one 3.7-kilometer main strip and a shorter intersecting strip, strain to handle flights, effectively functioning as a single runway for big jets, resulting in chronic congestion. The airport's facilities are overstretched, and delays are common. In sheer numbers, Ninoy Aquino International Airport is among Asia's busier hubs, yet it consistently earns scathing reviews and negative rankings. It's a facility bursting at the seams. So, why is Ninoy Aquino International Airport so bad? What went wrong at Manila's airport to make it such a failure? A brief history. Ninoy Aquino International Airport story began in the 1940s when a small airfield known as Nichols Field was converted for civil use. The first true passenger terminal opened in 1961, and what is now Terminal 1 was inaugurated in 1982. Terminal 1 was built to handle about 6 million passengers a year, a decent figure at the time, but by the 1990s it was hopelessly over capacity. A new Terminal 2 opened in 1998, formerly 1999, as the home of Philippine Airlines, and a larger Terminal 3 was planned to open by the early 2000s. However, Terminal 3's construction was bogged down by legal disputes and delays. It only became fully operational in 2014, years after originally intended. In the meantime, Ninoy Aquino International Airport traffic kept growing. An old domestic terminal, now Terminal 4, continued in use for smaller local flights, essentially a vintage pre-jet era facility still handling passengers. These ad hoc expansions left Ninoy Aquino International Airport with 4 unconnected terminals spread across the same constrained airfield. By the early 2010s, Ninoy Aquino International Airport Terminal 1 had become infamous for overcrowding, poor ventilation, and long queues everywhere from check-in to restrooms. It was this state that led travel website surveys to dub Ninoy Aquino International Airport the world's worst airport around 2011 to 2013. Passengers complained of broken air conditioning, insufficient seating, and leaking ceilings. The terminal, built in the 1980s, simply couldn't handle 8 million plus users with comfort. Although minor renovations were later done, the die was cast. Ninoy Aquino International Airport's image was that of a dated, overstuffed facility straining at the seams. The roots of Ninoy Aquino International Airport's failure lie in how it was designed and haphazardly expanded. 3 major design flaws cripple the airport's efficiency and passenger experience. We'll examine each in turn. Ninoy Aquino, International Airport isn't one cohesive airport. It's 4 separate terminals scattered around the airfield. There are no inter-terminal walkways or trains connecting these terminals. If you need to transfer from one terminal to another, you must exit to the street and take a shuttle bus or taxi through Manila traffic. This fragmentation means missed connections and frustration. A passenger arriving on an international flight at Terminal 1, who needs to catch a domestic flight from Terminal 3, faces a time-consuming ordeal just to move between buildings. Each terminal operates like an island: separate security checkpoints, separate immigration, separate everything. Unlike modern megahubs where transit is seamless, Ninoy Aquino International Airport's layout leaves travelers fending for themselves outside in the humid tropics, hauling luggage onto shuttles. The lack of an integrated terminal system is a design failure that hinders both passenger convenience and efficient operations. To put it in perspective, other major airports of similar size usually have monorails or automated trains gliding between terminals, or are designed as one huge integrated terminal. At Ninoy Aquino International Airport, by contrast, transferring terminals can feel like leaving one airport and entering another, because that's essentially what you do. Travelers often buffer hours of transfer time to navigate the process. The fragmentation doesn't just inconvenience passengers, it complicates airline operations too. Connecting flights are harder to schedule and code share because moving passengers or luggage between terminals is cumbersome. Ninoy Aquino International Airport's own management has tried to mitigate this by running free shuttle buses, but these shuttles are subject to city traffic and irregular timing. In practice, many passengers simply take taxis and battle the congestion. The design offers none of the efficiency one would expect of a capital city airport. It's a daily improvisation to move people around a layout that never functioned as one unified hub. Ninoy Aquino International Airport's location is perhaps its most intractable flaw. The airport is hemmed in by dense urban development on all sides, effectively landlocked. It sits on only about 4.4 square kilometers of land, one of the smallest footprints of any major airport. All around its perimeter are highways, malls, offices, and neighborhoods. There is literally no room to extend a runway or build a new terminal. Observers have likened Ninoy Aquino International Airport to an aircraft carrier stuck on dry land, walled in with nowhere to go. It's worth comparing Ninoy Aquino International Airport's footprint to its regional peers. At about 625 hectares, 6.25 square kilometers, of land, Ninoy Aquino International Airport is tiny for a major hub. Bangkok's Suvarnabhumi Airport sits on approximately 32 square kilometers. Singapore's Changi has over 13 square kilometers, with plans to reclaim more. Shanghai Pudong spans some 40-plus square kilometers. Ninoy Aquino International Airport, at a mere 4 to 6 square kilometers, depending on what is counted, simply cannot stretch out. Over the years, various proposals were floated to increase capacity, such as reclaiming land from Manila Bay for another runway, or bulldozing nearby neighborhoods, but none were realistic. The surrounding city is just too built up. Even height restrictions are enforced in the vicinity, so arriving planes have clear approach paths, underscoring how tightly Ninoy Aquino International Airport is wedged into the metropolis. In essence, the airport is frozen in size while demand keeps rising. This physical straitjacket means that all other improvements, reorganizing terminal assignments, tweaking flight schedules, are just band-aids. Ninoy Aquino International Airport's fundamental limitation is that it cannot physically grow. That is a direct result of its site selection and urban encroachment, a design and context flaw that cannot be fixed in the current location. The consequences are severe. Ninoy Aquino International Airport still effectively has just one primary runway to handle nearly 280,000 flights a year, since the shorter cross runway can only serve small planes. Ninoy Aquino International Airport's 2 runways even intersect each other in an X shape, which severely limits simultaneous takeoffs or landings. Unlike airports with parallel runways that can operate concurrently, Ninoy Aquino International Airport effectively operates as a single runway airport, because using both at once requires careful sequencing to avoid crossing paths. Adding a much-needed third runway or more apron space is impossible at the current site. It's common for arriving aircraft to enter holding patterns above Manila, burning extra fuel as they wait for an open slot to land, another byproduct of Ninoy Aquino International Airport's congestion. This landlock forces Ninoy Aquino International Airport to operate beyond its design limits, guaranteeing congestion. A stark illustration came in 2018 when a single mishap, a Boeing 737 skidding off Ninoy Aquino International Airport's main runway, essentially shut down the airport for 2 days. With no alternative runway for large jets, authorities had to close the field, disrupting more than 200 flights as they struggled to remove the stranded plane. Thousands of travelers were left in limbo, and chaotic scenes unfolded as terminals swelled with stranded passengers. Such an incident, while disruptive anywhere, was especially catastrophic at Ninoy Aquino International Airport because there was no backup runway to keep even partial operations going. Even if Ninoy Aquino International Airport's layout were ideal, its aging infrastructure frequently breaks down. Years of underinvestment and poor maintenance have made critical systems dangerously brittle. The most dramatic example came on January 1, 2023, when a power surge and equipment failure crashed Ninoy Aquino International Airport's air traffic control system, shutting down Philippine airspace for hours. There was no functional backup. The airport's communications, radar, and navigation all went dark because a supposedly uninterruptible power supply wasn't properly connected to the backup power. This single point of failure stranded tens of thousands and broadcast Ninoy Aquino International Airport's technical frailty to the world. Less dramatic, but telling, are the constant facility glitches. For instance, in 2024, Ninoy Aquino International Airport's Terminal 3 air conditioning system overheated and had to be shut down on a busy travel day, leaving passengers sweltering in Saudi-like heat. Electrical blackouts, broken baggage carousels, malfunctioning check-in systems, these have all been common occurrences at Ninoy Aquino International Airport. Beyond these headline incidents, everyday decay at Ninoy Aquino International Airport further highlights its fragility. In 2023, videos of bedbugs and rats spotted in the terminals went viral, prompting a congressional inquiry into the airport's sanitation. Such infestations are more commonly associated with dilapidated bus stations than a nation's flagship airport. It underscored how upkeep had fallen by the wayside. Additionally, the equipment that does exist is often antiquated. The air traffic management system that failed in 2023 was ironically brand new. It had been commissioned in 2018, yet was based on technology from 2010 and already considered obsolete on arrival. Modern airports build in layers of redundancy, backup power, duplicate servers, etc. But Ninoy Aquino International Airport systems lacked these safety nets. The result is an airport where a single blown circuit or busted AC can cascade into a shutdown. Airlines and passengers have little confidence that everything will just work at Ninoy Aquino International Airport. They are perpetually bracing for the next glitch. This brittle state is the cumulative outcome of design neglect, infrastructure that wasn't built for today's loads and wasn't kept updated. In an industry that demands high reliability, Ninoy Aquino International Airport became an outlier for all the wrong reasons. Up to this point, we've focused on Ninoy Aquino International Airport's internal woes: terminals, runways, and failing equipment. But the bigger picture is that Ninoy Aquino International Airport's dysfunction doesn't stay contained within the airport's fences, it radiates outward into the Philippine economy and society. Ninoy Aquino International Airport is not just a bad passenger experience, it's an active drag on the nation. Consider tourism and business. Every traveler's first impression of the Philippines is Ninoy Aquino International Airport, and that impression has often been terrible. Long lines, chaos, and delays at Ninoy Aquino International Airport have deterred repeat visits and investment. Ninoy Aquino International Airport's reputation for congestion and subpar facilities directly undermines the country's global image. In effect, the airport's flaws broadcast an image of inefficiency that makes potential tourists think twice. The numbers bear this out. The Philippines lags far behind its neighbors in tourist arrivals, e.g. recent figures, 5.4 million versus tens of millions in Thailand and Malaysia. And Ninoy Aquino International Airport is a key bottleneck. If flights cannot be added and passengers dread the gateway, growth is stunted. Likewise for business, a poor airport signals infrastructure risks, possibly discouraging investors. In short, a failing airport translates to missed economic opportunities. This reframes Ninoy Aquino International Airport's saga. It's not merely an aviation problem, but a national development problem. Next, we'll break down the concrete costs of keeping such a broken gateway. Ninoy Aquino International Airport's design failures have cascading costs that reach far beyond the airport's perimeter. What does it mean for a country when its main air hub becomes a liability? Several key impacts stand out. Slower tourism and investment. The Philippines struggles to attract as many visitors as its Southeast Asian peers, and Ninoy Aquino International Airport is a big reason why limited flight slots and an unpleasant arrival experience translate into lost tourist dollars. Airlines have reported that Ninoy Aquino International Airport's slot congestion prevents adding new routes, effectively capping the country's connectivity. Fewer flights and frustrated travelers mean less tourism growth and less foreign investment. It's hard to sell Visit Philippines when just getting through the airport is a traveler's nightmare. Case in point, pre-pandemic, the Philippines managed around 8 million foreign tourists in its best year, while Thailand routinely exceeded 35 million. The airport constraint is not the sole reason, but it's a significant one. In the aviation industry, Manila gained a reputation as a hard place to launch new flights. Several foreign carriers reportedly shelved expansion plans due to lack of takeoff-landing slots at Ninoy Aquino International Airport. Urban traffic congestion. Ninoy Aquino International Airport's problems extend onto Manila's roads. The airport's location within the city and lack of efficient transit links means that airport traffic spills onto an already gridlocked road network. Around the terminals, vehicles often queue up for drop-offs and pickups, creating jams on surrounding highways. Increased passenger traffic has led to congestion, not just inside Ninoy Aquino International Airport, but on adjacent roads. Delayed flights and erratic schedules also cause people to spend extra hours on the road or waiting, adding to Manila's notorious traffic. All this results in wasted fuel, lost productivity, and more pollution, an external cost of an overstretched airport. Not even the addition of an elevated Ninoy Aquino International Airport expressway has solved this. During peak hours, cars heading to Terminal 3 often back up onto the expressway off-ramps and surrounding avenues. National brand damage. A country's main airport is its front door, and Ninoy Aquino International Airport's dismal reputation has tarnished the national brand. Being repeatedly labelled world's worst airport in global surveys is more than an embarrassment. Indeed, Ninoy Aquino International Airport Terminal 1 topped global worst airport lists multiple times in the 2000s, a humiliation that made headlines and memes. It affects how the Philippines is perceived by investors, businesses, and its own diaspora. The recurring news of Ninoy Aquino International Airport's mishaps, from power outages to pest infestations, erodes confidence in Philippine infrastructure. Other nations boast gleaming, efficient airports as symbols of progress. Ninoy Aquino International Airport, by contrast, broadcasts a narrative of dysfunction. This damage to image can subtly influence business decisions and tourism choices, making the Philippines seem less competitive. Restoring the country's reputation will require fixing or replacing its gateway. OFW's painful welcome home. Perhaps most poignantly, Ninoy Aquino International Airport's failures hit returning overseas Filipino workers the hardest. Millions of Filipinos work abroad and eventually fly back through Manila, often after long absences. Instead of a seamless welcome, they are greeted by long immigration queues, crowded baggage halls, and infrastructure hiccups. The airport's congestion and delays particularly burden OFWs who have strict timetables for deployment or limited vacation days. A homecoming that should be joyous can turn stressful and exhausting. For example, imagine a Filipino nurse returning from a 14-hour flight from the Middle East, only to wait another 2 hours in immigration and baggage queues at Ninoy Aquino International Airport. Many OFWs describe feeling stress rather than relief upon landing home. The government has even opened dedicated OFW lounges and special immigration counters to mitigate this. But those are band-aids on a bigger wound. The true fix would be an efficient airport that lets our modern heroes arrive with dignity and ease. By the late 2010s, the situation had gotten so dire that the government solicited proposals to rehabilitate Ninoy Aquino International Airport. Private consortiums offered to renovate terminals and optimize operations, and indeed, a major rehabilitation concession was awarded in 2024, with the new operator aiming to boost Ninoy Aquino International Airport's capacity modestly and improve service in the interim. But even these proponents acknowledged that no amount of tweaking could give Ninoy Aquino International Airport the runways or land it fundamentally lacks. The consensus became clear. The country needed a brand new airport to truly escape Ninoy Aquino International Airport's constraints. After decades of Ninoy Aquino International Airport patch-ups, the Philippines has finally embarked on a permanent fix, building an entirely new airport. The new Manila International Airport, NMIA, often called the Bulacan International Airport, is the government's planned escape hatch from Ninoy Aquino International Airport's woes. This mega-project, led by the private conglomerate San Miguel Corporation, aims to replace Ninoy Aquino International Airport as Luzon's main air gateway by the late 2020s. The choice of Bulacan wasn't the only idea on the table. Authorities also looked at expanding Clark International Airport, an existing secondary airport approximately 90 kilometers north of Manila, and even proposed building a new airport at Sangli Point in Cavite, south of Manila. Clark has since been developed as a complementary airport, but its distance from the capital limits its usefulness as a primary gateway. Sangli's plan is moving slower. Thus, the Bulacan project became the centerpiece solution to Manila's airport crunch. The new airport is a 740 billion peso, approximately $15 billion, venture financed under a build-operate-transfer concession. Crucially, it's being constructed on a sprawling 2,500-hectare site in Bulacan, about 30 kilometers north of Manila, on largely reclaimed land near Manila Bay. This location is outside the dense city, meaning plenty of room to build and expand. Where Ninoy Aquino International Airport was landlocked, the Bulacan site offers open space. The plan includes new transport links. An 8.4-kilometer toll expressway will connect the airport to the North Luzon Expressway, NLEX, and there are provisions for a future rail connection, extending Metro Manila's MRT Line 7. In short, the new airport is being placed and planned to avoid the geographical straitjacket that Ninoy Aquino International Airport suffers.